today I opened up my AMC app to see if there were any good showings for The Boogeyman, which I wanted to watch initially. I knew it was opening today, and there weren't, but what I did forget is that Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse also opened today, and there were good times, so I saw that. And now this is going to be a review for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and I'll let you know if I think it is worth the money in your pocket.
My name is Miles Morales. I'm Brooklyn's one and only Spider-Man. And things are going great.
Oh yeah, you were supposed to be here at 5.
All right, whatever.
Whatever?
Wow.
Whatever?
So are you like a cow or a Dalmatian?
I am the Spot. That's not funny.
Someone else let me know, but in my theater today, usually the volume is loud, right? Like usually the volume is here, but for me, the volume of the movie was here. I don't know if that's part of the movie or if it was just the theater I was in. I don't know. I don't want to give a synopsis for this movie just because I think it'll be hard to avoid spoilers when giving a synopsis or giving away, even not necessarily huge spoilers, but things people wouldn't want to know. But what I will say is it might be early, it might be recency bias, I don't think so, but this might be my favorite, if not my favorite. It's definitely one of my favorite animation movies of all time, like in general, not MCU, it's not even MCU, but not Marvel, but just in general, one of my favorite animations of all time. And when it's said and done, and when I think about it more, it might be my favorite. If you don't like the vibe of the first one, you weren't really into it, whether it was the animation or the sound or whatever, if it just wasn't your thing, this is likely not going to be your thing either. But I do think this movie is better than the first, and it's just I really liked what they did in the first one, and I think they even took it up a notch and they did more with it. And I was also a bit more intrigued with the story and the characters within this story that they introduced, and I really liked the first one. It's just, again, for the reasons I just mentioned, I just like this one a bit more, and I'll go into why. If you've seen my reviews, you might have noticed that I don't speak on the score, the sound editing, sound design, anything like that very much or at all. And it's weird because I make music and I love music, but I focus a lot on acting, directing, writing, cinematography, because that's really what I notice in movies first and foremost. And it's probably bad. I need to focus more on the score because, it is beautiful when you do focus on it, and there's a lot that is great. But unless it's a Christopher Nolan film or a film composed by a score composed by Hans Zimmer, I usually don't notice too much from the sound design and the music behind the film. That's my own fault, but this has incredible sound editing, sound design. When they're transitioning from one mood to another, one scene to another, the way they edit the sound is just incredible and completely immersive for me. It encapsulates the scene, and I found myself, and like I said, I don't notice it too much, but I found myself really, really noticing it, really loving it, having a much better experience for having noticed that element of the film. There's one part of it that I was like, they have Sunflower, which is kind of the main song that was marketed and blew up outside of just the film it was by Post Malone. And in the film, he puts the headphones on and that's the song. It kind of felt like that was the song of the movie, even though there were other really good songs as well in the movie and throughout the film. In this one, they have a similar scene where he puts on headphones, and I don't know if they really marketed or if they expect this to be the main song for the film. I was really loving it sonically, and when it was at first the initial intro instrumental going into the song, it was just when the lyrics played, it just sounded like whoever asked them to make the song was just kind of like, this is the beat, you got 3 minutes, just say whatever, and absolutely no planning or anything. It sounded like a freestyle from someone that doesn't know how to freestyle. It honestly is what it sounded like. Maybe I need to listen to it more. It wasn't that long, but that kind of sucked because I did really like that sonically. But that's just a small gripe for me, just because every other song, all the other scores, all the other sound design that was implemented in this film was done to perfection, essentially, for me at least. And that's my highlight for the film is really the music. I also really love the story in this. Like I mentioned in the beginning, a part of the reason why I like this one more than the first one is because of the story. I like the main plot, I like the subplots, I like the characters that they introduce, and the stakes seem very high. And it's another one of those well-written plots where you understand the other side, right? Like, you understand what Miles is going through and why he's doing what he's doing, but you also understand why the other people are doing what they're doing in this film. And there was a point in time which was gonna be potentially a negative for me, where for the main plot seemed to get away from the film, and I was wondering, like, why haven't we seen anything that seemed to be the main plot? We haven't seen, we diverged into the subplot, and now the subplot almost feels like it's becoming the main plot because of how long we've taken away from what was initially established to us as the main plot. But what I will say, any gripes like that I had with the film, with the story, was answered with the ending. You might not be a fan of how this movie ended. I don't want to get a spoiler section of this movie just because I don't mind how it ended. I still think the film was great, and really a spoiler part would me just be explaining what happened, and likely if you're watching the spoiler section you know what happened already, and if you want to know the spoilers because you don't want to see it or you just want to know ahead of time, you're one of those that like to just know what happens, then you can find it somewhere else. I had a couple questions both for within the movie and outside of the movie, which if you maybe that doesn't make sense even if you've seen the ending, but I'll just say that any questions I really had got summed up by the ending. Lastly, what I'll say that I really love is I don't think I've ever seen, and if I have, I don't remember, a time where where a movie has taken a villain that's kind of a joke and have made them completely menacing. In recent memory, right, Ant-Man Quantumania, you have MODOK, who, as far as I know, I didn't read the comics, but from what I've seen and what I've heard is that he's a pretty menacing henchman. I don't even know if he's a henchman, he might be a main villain, but in Quantumania, obviously King is the big bad and they brought MODOK, which is fine, but he was a joke through and through. Sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. In that case, I don't think it did. But with this movie, I didn't really expect it to take the turn that it ended up taking, and I loved it. The writing for the villain, the writing for Miles Morales, whether it was an emotional or it was more of a triumphant, motivational line or whatever, where they had a moment where it was going to be like, this seems like one of those moments where it's just they're gonna say a line that just comes off cringy or kind of corny to me, and for me it didn't. I'm not saying like all of them were quotable, like something I'll just be throwing out at people walking down on the street. It wasn't over the top, and it wasn't under the top. Not sure if that makes sense, but you get it. It wasn't here, it wasn't there. It was right here. And that's the sweet spot right there. But yeah, I really liked this movie. So let me just give my rating and what I thought. And I'm going to give this movie a 9.2 out of 10. It's probably either this or The Father that's the best review. It's not my favorite movie ever. I mean, and there's a lot of movies I can name that I do like more than this. I just didn't review them. I've never reviewed them. So, but still, 9.2 out of 10. It's pretty solid. But have you seen it? If you haven't, go see it. Come back. Let me know what you thought about it. I want to see what you think. With all that being said, I hope you have a great